It's the best thing the MCU did in 2023.
Oh, I don't know. I love the Marvels.
The Marvels. It's the best thing the MCU did in 2023. This is the Finding Good podcast with Kevin and Milton.
Welcome back to the Finding Good podcast. It's Kevin, it's Milton, and we are back season 3.
That's right.
Another episode. Today we're going to be talking about Loki, the second season, one that I would say both of us enjoyed very, very much.
Immensely is the word that comes to mind.
Well, before we get into the conversation, remember to like, share, subscribe. Let somebody know about our podcast, especially somebody who's into film, TV, and going a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch Loki, we're going to talk about the full season, so I don't want to do any spoilers for you, but...
Yeah, so pause, go check it out, Disney Plus, come back, and we'll still be here.
That's right. That's right. So Loki was a deep one.
Yeah.
They certainly went way into time travel, which typically makes me very irritable.
You weren't a Back to the Future guy?
I loved Back to the Future.
Okay.
That is the only, maybe that's why I don't like it, because Back to the Future did it so well that everything since has felt just really over the top, ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the last, and I love Loki, but I think the last time travel-y kind of thing that I really resonated with was Endgame, which how they did it in Endgame, and that to me, with the quantum realm and all that kind of stuff.
And there was that scene with Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Talking about time travel and how stupid it is, and I think they quoted Back to the Future.
Yeah,
and that was a pretty good line.
Yeah. So I guess this is what resonated with me in this season, especially because it definitely goes in all kinds of places. We go back in time, we go forward in time, and it's and that part where I forget exactly which episode it was, but it was that thing where Loki just kept going, trying to fix things, trying to make things better, and his motivation, seemed interesting to me. Like, why is he trying to do this?
Right.
And he confesses to us at one point, I think it was the next to the last episode, where he's like, I just want my friends back. He just kept losing them over and over and over, and he wanted the crew to get back together, and that was the motivation that he had. His
journey has been an interesting one.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most complete character arcs in the MCU. They have done quite a bit with him.
Yeah.
But just from total villain to reluctant hero to now savior of the multiverse and everything in between, he's gone on a very wild journey, and in this one, I think what you're referencing is his realization that there is more to his story, that he has more to give, but doing it alone is really sad, and doing it with losing all these friends that he has grown to love and accept, instead of like torture and and swindle and all these things.
Yeah,
he's like, no, I actually like living this way, and now I'm gonna lose it all.
Yeah.
And that's horrible.
Isn't it interesting, when we first meet Loki in Thor, right, the first Thor, he's this adopted son. He doesn't know he's adopted at first, but then he figures it out later. He's this adopted son who gets looked over for being king of Asgard.
Yeah.
Right, and Thor gets that opportunity instead. And we know that so much of what he's doing is because he wants to be the head honcho. He wants to be the guy sitting on the throne, in control, calling all the shots. Mm-hmm. He never gets there. He tries it in Avengers. He tries it over and over different places. He hooks up with Thanos so that he can become the king, right? And in this season, at the end, he basically gets what he's ultimately wanted since the first movie. He gets to be, maybe in a different way than he anticipated, but he's basically in control of the whole thing, of all the multiverse and all the timelines. And it almost seems like in that last scene, as he's walking through and he's grabbing all the different timelines and he's putting them together, and he kind of takes that seat almost like a throne, and he's holding it all. But it doesn't, because he sat on the throne before, but he looks different this time. Because it seems like he got what he wanted, but it was something different behind his actions and his decision making at this time. Did you get that as you were watching this?
I mean, it's really really interesting to watch his outcome, because I feel it's almost what he wanted to do his whole life anyway.
Yeah.
But it feels very different.
Right.
It feels very. It feels like it has greater purpose. I mean, he wanted to be at the top for him. Worship me, look at me, do what I say.
Yeah.
And now he's at the top for others. He's still at the top.
Yeah.
He's just, what's behind it is, I believe, more genuine to the core of who he had to discover he really is, which is not this evil guy who just wants everything to himself and wants people to worship him. It's actually doing good for others, serving others, and being that savior figure. Interesting that you can achieve the goal that you want with a totally different heart.
Right.
And one way is like evil, and the other way is good, but they're the same thing. How does that happen?
The result is the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? Like you can become rich by working hard, making good investments, right? Making sound financial decisions, or you can rob a bank, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and in both scenarios, you become rich, right? Yep. But there's different paths to it, and depending on what your moral, standards are, one is right, one is wrong, and everyone has that choice.
Sure.
You can reach the same goal, but have a different motivation or a different approach to it.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave that example, because I think it lowers the stakes a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, Loki is a god in the MCU, and he's assuming his role as god in the MCU, and to me, I kind of, obviously with my faith, that sits a little uncomfortable with me.
Sure.
But I'm glad you gave that example, and I want to talk a little bit more about how the everyday person achieves that level, the rich, without like having to own the whole multiverse, having to control the whole multiverse.
Right.
Yeah.
I think of a situation like let's talk about in a work environment, right? We have supervisors, we have managers, CEOs, people in charge of other people below them, and I've noticed that there's two kind of approaches in that corporate space. One is, I am going to just be a dictator, and I'm going to force the things that I want to happen. And you can do that with pay scales, you can do that with pressure, you can do that with bonuses, right? And you can make the things happen so that your company is successful. And then you have the other side, which you have leaders who kind of earn, instead of forcing, they earn the respect and the admiration of their subordinates, and people work for them because they respect them, and they understand the vision of the company, and they understand what the goals are, and they're motivated to then move forward and to deliver on what's being asked of them by their supervisors. And those are the two options that many of us hold, especially those of us like you and I. We have leadership positions in our ministry. We could just push, or we can, hopefully inspire people to move forward.
Yeah, and what's underneath that end goal, right? So you want to be a leader. What's underneath your leadership? Is it a bunch of forced actions, or did you actually earn that position? And I think, why are we even talking about this? Well, because I do believe there is a better way to live when you do things the right way. There is a peace that can come. There is you're just able to bring more people with you. You get to experience more life abundantly by doing it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of us just look at the end goal and it's like, we want to be that and we want to achieve that and we don't really care how we get there. And I think what we saw in Loki was a great example of there might be multiple paths, but there's a path where you will achieve greater inner peace and greater enjoyment once you achieve that goal.
And I think to bring the example of you and I, okay, like I said before, we both hold leadership positions, and we take these disc profiles, right? And you're a certain way, I'm a certain way, and you aren't me, I'm not you. We don't approach things exactly the same. But what makes our team very powerful is that you lean into a certain way of leadership very well, which is goal-oriented, getting tasks done, and I lean more into the people and how the people are feeling and trying to understand how they're experiencing the work environment. And if it was just me calling the shots, everybody would feel great, but nothing would get done. And if it was just you calling the shots, a lot would be getting done, but there'd be less and less people working here, and you'd be doing more and more of the work by yourself.
It's a true story.
Right?
I don't take offense to that at all.
No.
Because what you're saying is there's a balance.
There is and when you talk about the best way forward, a lot of times the best way forward doesn't lie in one person. It lies in a team approach to saying, like, hey, if we consider everything that everyone sees and that everyone understands, we can craft a process and an approach that will give us the greatest, quickest, most efficient, and most enjoyable way to the success that we're looking for.
It's good. It's good. I mean, I love the just different sides of the coin that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we're talking about forced versus earned, and leaders versus followers. And we're talking about the work environment, and that's great. But I want to talk about, because I believe this is an area that I need to really focus on and challenge myself in, and that's parenting. I'm a parent of 2 teens right now.
Ooh, boy.
And
can we have a moment of prayer and silence for Kevin?
Silence.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And my desire and heart is to just be an encourager in their lives, to help point them in the right directions, right? And at the same time, I have some desires to be their father and be the guy in charge.
Yeah.
For them to do what I think they need to be doing. And that comes with a level of like, okay, you have to respect me and you have to do this and you have to talk. And when you don't, oh boy, I want to still achieve that role in their lives, but I fear that I have gone about it very poorly a lot of times. But that goal in their lives is not a bad thing. I should be an authority in their lives. That's the whole point. Like God has said, like that is your role to lead them up and show them the way. I can't do that if I have zero authority, right? So
yeah, it's a tough one, because you can be an authority figure, and you can see this in a work environment too, but yet your authority only has certain limits because you haven't gotten to the point where your authority is a respected authority. It's only an authority because it has to be, because you hold a paycheck over the person, or you can hire and fire, or, those kinds of things.
Right.
I remember a time one of my daughters was really going through a tough trial in her life, and she was about to go off to college, and I was really concerned for her emotional life, her spiritual life. And I took her out to breakfast, and I'm like, hey, I wanna speak into your life right now. Like, I wanna know how are things going with you and your relationship with God and all those kinds of things. And it was like the brick wall that she put up was so fast.
Oh, wow.
And she even said the words to me, like, I don't want this from you. Like, This is not something that I want from you. And I'm sitting there like, first of all, hurt.
Sure.
First, like
that took a lot of guts to get there, right?
Yeah.
Vulnerability.
Right. And then, like, how dare you? Like, I'm the best person to speak into, I have a degree in Jesus, okay? So if anybody's gonna speak Jesus into your life, it's gonna be me.
Yeah.
And you're saying no?
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't, it was just recently. So I had to respect that. I had to say like, okay, this is not what you want from me. So I had to respect that. So years went by where now she defined the relationship. You're going to be this level of father to me. It's like, okay, wow. You're an adult. And it wasn't just, it was years later that I got to sit down with her and I say, hey, I just want to revisit this conversation with you, because if that's the kind of relationship you want to have with me, fine. Like, I'll take whatever you give me. But I just want you to know that I do still have this to offer you if you feel like it will be valuable to your life. And there were many tears shed by both of us because she apologized. And she said, like, when I said that, I knew that I was wrong.
Wow.
She says, I knew I was wrong. I knew that I was saying the wrong thing, and I knew that it hurt you. But in the space that I was in at that time of my life, that's all I knew how to do at the time. And I want you to speak it to my life. And I'm just like, you know, yeah. So just know, as you're seeking that with your kids, like, even if they say no, it may not be a real no. Yeah. It may just be out of pain, you know, that they're speaking that. And I think that I earned the right to revisit it because I respected where she wanted the relationship to be.
Right. And the end result was that you have the ability to speak into her life.
Yes.
Which is what you wanted. And we talked a little bit about this, about you had a ton of patience and you had a lot of respect. And those things that we want, we can try to force it, or we can kind of let go and just not be okay. That's not the right word, but to not burn those bridges and to be able to come back to them. And what's cool about this is that God promises that he will produce fruit in those moments.
Yeah.
I learned something from you. The fruit of the Spirit, what we talked about, is not fruits. It's not a whole bunch of things that we get to pick and choose and like we got all the things. It's a whole package deal, which made it even more cool. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the word is singular. It's the fruit of the Spirit. So Jesus was very clear. If you ask for the Holy Spirit, God will give it to you. You ask for the Holy Spirit, it comes with stuff. It comes with Jesus' presence in your life, and then it comes with fruit of the Spirit, which begins to grow. Now, fruit doesn't grow immediately, right? You don't plant a tree and boom, you get peaches, right? It takes time. But these are the things that will be developed in you. Patience, kindness, joy,
goodness,
perseverance. Yeah, goodness, faithfulness. All these things, gentleness, beautiful things that we all need. So just know you have them. You have them. Now, you may not have them completely, you know, grown out and fulfilled, and you're just good at doing it all, but you have all of it. You have some level of all of it. And as you plug into God more and more, and that will continue to grow. And as other people do the same thing, it will continue to grow in them. And that will make these relationships, you know, this double-sided coin flip to the better side.
Right.
Right?
And ultimately, those things will result in God giving you the desires of your heart and taking care of you and your loved ones. And it could look like achieving that goal that you were really striving hard to do poorly before.
Yeah. So what I think ultimately what we're talking about is how do we approach these things so that good things come out of them, right? You know, we don't want to force anybody to do anything. We want to encourage people to do things. As a parent, you want to love your kids, and you want to receive love from them as well. Here's a part that I'm really struggling with, and it's this concept. Jesus talked about love your enemies, right? And we've heard, and if you've grown up in the church at all, you've heard this before. Sure. Love your enemies, and nobody thinks it's easy. Nobody thinks it's easy, but everybody knows it's the right thing to do. We should love our enemies. But the second part of that statement is the one that I'm having the most difficulty with, which says, love your enemies and expect nothing in return. Mm. So we're giving, expecting nothing back. And if we give, and nothing ever comes back, we're still doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, that's so hard. It's so hard for me. Because I want, you know, I mean, what's the golden rule? Treat others as you want to be treated. Well, I want that.
Yeah.
It's baked into this thing that also has been, we're taught to expect. Like, if I expect love, then I have to give love. Okay, well, the flip side, if I'm giving love, why am I not getting love back? And so, wow, that's, and it's so Jesus.
It's so Jesus.
to just take common sense and flip it on its head.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's completely countercultural.
And it works.
Yeah, and I'm learning more and more that the what I grew up knowing and being told about following God was completely wrong. Not completely wrong, but there was an aspect of it that was wrong, which it was always taught to me like, this is going to make your life awesome.
Right. It wasn't the full story.
It wasn't the full story. And my life is awesome. I don't want to give anybody the impression that following God hasn't been awesome. It has been awesome, but it's been challenging too. And there have been hard things that God has asked me to do. And this is one of them, to look at someone who is completely against you, who is your enemy, who is trying to hurt you, and to say, love that person. But isn't that what will generate love? Like, definitely, I know if I hate that person, they're not going to love me.
Right.
That's just going to make it worse. So my only chance for this to get okay, to get in a place where it's fine, is to love. But I don't want to.
Right. Well, and, you know, to bring it back on the show that we're talking about, Loki at the very end, accepting this role of bringing peace to the multiverse. He's doing it alone. No one saw him do it.
No.
There's no expectation of return. He's just self-sacrificing and adopting his role and just being okay with not getting anything back.
Yeah.
Interesting. And the peace in that final scene, he has peace.
He does.
It was represented in like, okay, I have been fighting to find my purpose this whole time. It hasn't worked. Now everything is clicking into place. I did it the right way. I'm serving without expecting return. And there's a peace that comes over him. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that peace is something you get as well, and hope you enjoy Loki season 2. Let's all seek to, be those kinds of people that God is asking us to be, those kinds of people that bring good out of others and motivate others towards love and good works. So remember, like, subscribe, ring that bell so that every time we post another episode, you are reminded. Share it with somebody, and we'd love to hear your comments. Well, thanks for being with us, and until next time.